Welcome to Everything Casual, bringing you original football casual videos from the golden era of the 80s and 90s, right up to current day. Football away day stories and historic clashes between football firms. Subscribe so you don't miss out. We upload videos every week. All credit for this video goes to the YouTube channel Underworld UK. He made it. He is a friend of mine and a top football lad. And if you are into true crime videos and gangland stories, then I urge you to check his channel out. This is the first collaboration video between Everything Casual and Underworld UK, so hopefully you enjoy it. Let's jump straight in.
Bradley Welsh was born in April 1970 in the Morden area of Edinburgh, a working-class housing scheme shaped by deprivation, violence and limited opportunity. It was an environment where reputation mattered early, where strength was respected, and where boys learned quickly that weakness invited trouble. From a young age, Welsh was surrounded by street confrontations and territorial tensions, and violence was not an abstract concept but a daily reality. In later years, he would describe his childhood as chaotic, restless, and fueled by anger, a constant need to prove himself in a world that offered few legitimate paths to status or success. As a child, Welsh was introduced to boxing, a decision that would quietly shape the rest of his life. Inside the gym, the violence he carried was given structure. There were rules, discipline and consequences. For the first time, fighting wasn't about survival or reputation, but control. Yet outside the ropes, the streets still cooled. Edinburgh in the late 1970s and early 80s was fertile ground for football-related violence, and like many young men searching for belonging, Welsh was drawn into the culture of football hooliganism. By his early teens, he had become involved with the casual scene surrounding Hibernian Football Club. The capital city service firm was notorious, and participation offered camaraderie, excitement and identity. Match days became battlegrounds, and violence was ritualised. Welsh was still barely a teenager when he was regularly involved in organised clashes with rival supporters, travelling for fights rather than football. He later admitted that the buzz of confrontation, the sense of brotherhood, and the theory inspired in others became addictive. As his reputation grew, so did his confidence. Still in his teens, Welsh was no longer just another face in the crowd. He began organising younger lads, forming his own crew, asserting authority through intimidation and force. This period marked the beginning of a pattern that would repeat throughout his life. Leadership rooted in physical dominance, loyalty earned through fear and respect, and an almost compulsive need to be at the centre of whatever world he inhabited. At the same time, boxing remained a constant presence. While many around him drifted entirely into street life, Welsh continued to train, sometimes obsessively. He amassed an extraordinary number of amateur bouts, developing a reputation not just for toughness, but for skill and ring intelligence. Boxing offered him something hooliganism never could, a legitimate way out, a chance to channel aggression into achievement. That chance became real in the early 1990s. Training out of Leith Victoria Amateur Boxing Club, Welsh rose rapidly through the ranks. In 1993, he reached the pinnacle of amateur boxing in Britain by winning the ABA Lightweight Championship. It was a defining moment. For a brief time, he was celebrated not as a street fighter or hooligan, but as a national champion. The title placed him among the elite of British amateur boxing and opened doors that had previously been closed. Yet, even as his boxing success grew, his personal life remained unstable. The habits formed on the streets did not disappear overnight. Welsh struggled to fully leave behind the mentality of confrontation and dominance. He had already begun accumulating criminal convictions, including imprisonment as a young adult. One early sentence followed an incident involving threats and intimidation, resulting in a 4-year sentence of which he served around 18 months. Prison hardened him further, but it also gave him time to reflect on the direction his life was taking. After his release, Welsh attempted to balance boxing with a lifestyle that increasingly blurred into organised crime. He would later describe himself during this period as believing he was untouchable, comparing his mindset to a teenage gangster fantasy. Protection rackets, intimidation, and involvement in the shadowy edges of Edinburgh's security and nightclub scenes became part of his world. Violence was no longer spontaneous, it was transactional. Despite this, boxing continued to offer moments of clarity. Welsh briefly turned professional, fighting internationally and maintaining a respectable record. While he never reached world-level fame as a pro, the sport kept him grounded enough to avoid completely losing control. Still, the internal conflict remained unresolved. He was respected in gyms and feared on the streets, existing in two worlds that were increasingly incompatible. By the early 2000s, the consequences of his lifestyle were impossible to ignore. Further convictions followed, including a custodial sentence for assault. Each return to prison forced another reckoning. Friends drifted away, rivals multiplied, and the sense of invincibility began to crack. Welsh later admitted that he could see exactly where the path he was on would end, either in prison for life or in an early grave. The turning point came not as a single moment, but as a gradual exhaustion with violence. In his mid-30s, Welsh began consciously distancing himself from street conflict. Boxing once again became the anchor. Drawing on his own experiences, he began focusing on how the sport had saved him repeatedly, even when he resisted its lessons. He became increasingly vocal about steering young people away from the mistakes he had made. This shift manifested most clearly with the creation of the Holy Rood boxing gym in Edinburgh. More than just a training space, it was designed as a refuge for kids growing up in the same conditions that had shaped him. Welsh was open about his past, believing honesty carried more weight than moral lectures. He spoke openly about violence, prison and regret, using his credibility to reach young people who would never listen to authority figures.
Alongside the gym, he became involved with charitable work, including Edinburgh Helping Hands. The contrast was striking. A man once feared on match days and street corners was now organising food drives, mentoring teenagers and advocating for rehabilitation over punishment. To supporters, he was proof that people could change. To critics, his past never fully faded. Welsh's growing public profile led to unexpected opportunities. In 2008, he appeared on Danny Dyer's Deadliest Men, where his history as a fighter and former hooligan was presented to a national audience. Rather than glorifying violence, Welsh used the platform to reflect on the cost of that life. The appearance brought him a level of notoriety, but also distance from his criminal past. That exposure eventually led to acting. His authenticity and physical presence caught the attention of filmmakers, and in 2017 he appeared in T2 Trainspotting, playing the character Doyle. The role was brief but memorable and symbolically powerful. Welsh, once a product of the same streets that inspired the original Trainspotting, was now part of its legacy. For many, it felt like a full circle moment. Behind the scenes, however, the past never fully loosened its grip. While Welsh had stepped away from active criminality, old associations and unresolved tensions remained. In the underworld, retirement is rarely clean. Debts, grudges and reputations linger long after intentions change. Welsh himself acknowledged that you can leave the streets, but the streets don't always leave you. On the morning of April 17, 2019, those unresolved shadows caught up with him. As Welsh stepped outside his home in the West End of Edinburgh, he was confronted and shot multiple times in a targeted attack. He died at the scene. The killing sent shockwaves through the city. A man who had survived decades of violence, prison and conflict had been murdered on his own doorstep. The investigation revealed the killing was no random act. It was calculated, planned and personal. Court proceedings later described it as an assassination carried out with precision. While motives centred around criminal tensions and disputes, the full picture remained complex, tangled in years of history and association. Reaction to Welsh's death was deeply divided. Tributes poured in from boxers, community leaders and young people whose lives he had helped change. They remembered a mentor, a protector and a man who had spent his final years trying to give back. Others focused on his criminal past, arguing that violence eventually consumes those who live by it, no matter how late the attempt at redemption. In truth, Bradley Welsh embodied contradiction. He was an hooligan and a champion, a criminal and a mentor, feared and respected in equal measure. His life was not a simple redemption story, nor a cautionary tale alone. It was a reflection of how environment shapes identity, how difficult it is to escape a violent past, and how even genuine attempts at change can be overtaken by history. Today, Welsh's legacy remains contested. For some, he represents the possibility of transformation, proof that people can confront their worst instincts and try to build something better. For others, his story is a reminder that choices carry consequences that cannot always be outrun. What is undeniable is that Bradley Welsh lived intensely, violently and honestly, and that his life, in all its complexity, continues to fascinate and divide long after his death.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. All credit to Underworld UK for making this. Please check out their channel for the very best in true crime UK stories.